Hi guys, my name is Matt and welcome to the Rimpact installation tutorial. Today I'm going to be fitting a Rimpact Pro insert, but if you have an original, CX or Plus insert, this guide is applicable to you.
To install the insert, you'll need the following.
Before we get started, a few key points to cover. If you're using Bontrager rim strips or similar, it's worth taking this off and retaping your rim with regular tubeless tape. The rim strips will increase the diameter of your rim and make everything very hard to fit. If you have a fresh tyre, we consider installing that first before trying to fit the insert, just to check the viability of the tyre. A lot of tyres ship with warps and wobbles baked into their carcass, so it's a good idea to check the viability of the tyre before installing the insert. Lastly, I'd like to draw attention to the shape of the rim profile. As you can see, there's a high and a low portion of this rim.
The raised surfaces are where the tyre bead will sit when seated, and the shallow central portion is where the bead needs to sit during installation. Some rim profiles vary, so the technique may differ slightly, but the main thing to note is the difference in height of the middle of the rim versus the edges, as this area will provide the most slack for the tyre to be fitted.
That's going to make the tyre a lot easier to install as it's a smaller diameter, which means that the bead will fit in there a lot looser.
If you have narrower rims or a unique rim profile, it can be helpful to seat the tyre without the insert fitted, then deflate and remove only one side of the tyre, leaving one bead seated to provide extra real estate.
Finally, without the tyre fitted, install the insert over the rim. You'll note that it's incredibly tight. The reason for that is the tighter the insert is on the bead, the higher the performance.
Do this step to prepare yourself for the forces required when fitting the insert with the tyre, as it can be hard to know exactly what to expect if you haven't fitted inserts before. Don't be shy with the insert, it's very strong.
Once you've installed the insert, check out how tight it is and then remove it, preparing for the next step. You'll find the installation process is smoother if your workplace is clear or clean. Ideally, you want a large flat surface such as a table or a workshop bin to stabilize the tyre. I'll just be using this table here, but if you have a clean floor, that will do the job.
A key point in any tubeless setup is rim tape. If you're installing tubeless tape for the first time, head to the rim tape manufacturer's website or YouTube channel to follow a guide on how to correctly fit the tape. If you have an existing tubeless setup, it's worth inspecting the tape for any damage, holes or folds where the air could escape. Once you've got a well-sealed rim, it's time to move on to installing your tyre. Identify the valve hole in your rim and pierce a small hole in the tape, being careful not to split the tape too much, and then slowly press the valve into place, taking the rubber O-ring and lock ring and threading them onto the valve. Press the base of the valve against the rim with your thumb firmly and tighten the lock ring by hand until snug. Take your tyre and identify the rotation direction on the sidewall, matching it up with the direction your wheel will be spinning. Line up the logo with the valve and begin placing the bead over the rim. Once you've almost entirely fitted one side of the tyre, ensure the bead is in the central portion of the rim to alleviate tension and force the bead over the rim in its entirety. You may need to use a tyre lever to do this, flip it over and lever it on gently as to not damage the bead. Take the insert and slot it into the tyre, beginning to place it over the rim. Working the insert onto the rim, start close to you and move outward. Use your knees, another pair of hands, or in a pinch zip ties to hold the insert in place until you can fully stretch the insert onto the rim and let go without it falling off. If the insert is twisted, level it off now to ensure that it doesn't cause issues down the line. Next, you need to begin installing the second bead. To do so, you'll need to roll the insert up away from the rim so that the bead can slot underneath. Do this all the way around the rim until the tyre becomes too tight to fit by hand. At this point, the common mistake is to try and force the bead over the rim with levers. However, rather than doing this, retrace your steps around the tyre, manipulating the bead under the insert. The aim is to get the bead 100% sitting in the central, shallow part of the rim. This will alleviate tension on the bead and allow easier fitting in the final steps. The best technique for this is to manhandle the tyre with both hands. Press down, squeeze in and rotate towards you, lifting the bead into the air. Once it's lifted, manipulate the bead inboard and under the insert so that it rests in the centre of the rim. You'll know you've achieved this when you can see the colour of the rim tape and the defined raised outer shoulders. Repeat this process every few centimetres until you've completed a full pass of the tyre, then repeat again in reverse. If done correctly, you'll be able to work more of the tyre on by hand. As you fit more of the tyre, go back and repeat the process on this newly fitted portion of the bead to release some tension.
Eventually, you'll either be able to fit the tyre by hand or resort to using tyre levers for the last few inches. However, before you do that, you need to install your sealant.
Whilst you can use a sealant injector, it's not as easy with inserts as it is without. Rimpact recommends the pour method. If you forgot to put the sealant in the tyre before you closed it up, it's easier to pop the bead with a couple of levers and pour sealant in than it is to inject sealant through the valve. Refer to the manufacturer's recommended quantity, then add approximately 25% more to account for the increased surface area the insert has introduced.
Once you've poured in your sealant, it's time to install the last part of the bead. Take your tyre lever, place it inside the bead, push to the right, lift up, but hold that tyre lever in place. Take the second tyre lever, place it inside and push it to the opposite side. Lift up and hold that tyre lever in place. Remove the first one and repeat the process so you can slowly walk the tyre levers into the centre.
Finally, it's time to inflate the tyre. Take your pump and charge it to a high pressure. Loosen the press to valve core and attach a pump head. Refer to the markings on the tyre as well as the recommended inflation pressures stated by your rim manufacturer. Prepare to inflate to the lower of the two numbers. Open the pressure chamber and pump quickly to inflate the tyre as fast as possible. The tyre should seat and hold air. Observe the bead all the way around both sides of the tyre to ensure the bead is seated uniformly. We recommend riding around your garden, neighbourhood or local gravel trails, finding some curbs or gentle bumps to gain a good seal before embarking on longer rides on more serious terrain. To apply the decals to your rims, clean the area first with isopropyl alcohol or disc cleaner and dry with a lint-free rag. The stickers work best when applied in a warm environment. Peel back the sticker and press carefully to your rim. Rub the sticker to ensure it is stuck down and slowly peel back the clear layer. If any of the letters do not appear to be adhering, tease them off of the backing sheet with a nail and continue carefully removing this layer. Once the vinyl letters are in place, carefully but firmly press them down to ensure they have adhered to the metal.
Okay, now you've installed your tyre insert. Before your first proper ride, just check the bead is seated correctly and your tyre pressures are somewhere around where you'd normally run them, and enjoy your ride.